This is the Cancer Boss Method podcast, the place to be when cancer sucks and you don't want it to. I'm Leslie Nance, survivor, cancer coach, and healing mentor. Come learn the truth about what your role is in your own healing. No BS, just real strategies from a cancer coach who has been there, done that. And I'm talking about healing. Hi, welcome back to the Cancer Boss Method podcast. I'm Leslie Nance, certified holistic cancer coach, certified holistic oncology nutritionist, and 12-year cancer boss survivor. And today we're going to talk about something that should outrage every single one of us. I am going to ruffle some feathers today, which typically I don't do, but we're going to have a conversation today. So, prevention. Prevention is the product that America refuses to buy, and it's killing us. That's actually the title of this podcast today. So I want to get into that. You know, I was at a conference recently, and there was a Q&A of this with this doctors panel, and these were all alternative oncologists and natural medicine oncologists, and the woman in the audience asked a question. It was a total Q&A panel, and the woman asked a question in the audience about prevention, something like, why aren't we talking more about how to keep people from getting sick in the first place? And one of the doctors on stage, without blinking an eye, she said, because prevention doesn't sell. And that hit me. It hit me not because it is wrong, but because it is heartbreakingly right. And that's the problem. In our culture, we don't invest in staying well. We actually invest more in surviving being sick. We wait on our bodies to scream for help. We wait until we have a diagnosis. We wait until there's a pill or a treatment or some sort of Hail Mary solution. And only then do we take action. But if prevention doesn't sell, that's not just a failure of the system. That's a massive collective failure of imagination. So let's unpack this. Let's get into the roots of why we refuse to prioritize prevention and what it's really costing us. So first off, prevention does require imagination, and we have totally lost ours. Because let's be honest, we are a crisis culture. We do not want to act on a problem until it shows up. We want to wait until something is on fire and then panic and buy a solution. And we see this across the board with food, with sleep, with stress, with hydration, with movement. If we can't see the consequences immediately, then we don't take it seriously. And that's not just human nature. That's marketing. That's like an entire consumer system that has trained us to be reactive. And this is where it gets really dangerous. But because, according to the CDC, 60%, more than half of you as Americans, as adults, live with at least one chronic disease. And nearly half of that has two or more. Chronic diseases are responsible for 7 out of 10 deaths in the United States every year. And the kicker is, most of them are preventable. Heart disease, type 2 diabetes, many cancers, obesity, stroke. We could prevent or delay the majority of these diagnoses with simple, basic lifestyle interventions, but we don't, because prevention doesn't sell. Second, the demographics. Young bodies, old habits. Let's just talk about age for just a second. Try selling prevention to a 25-year-old who feels great, who looks good, who hasn't been to see a doctor in years, maybe since childhood. They'll laugh in your face. But this is when prevention matters the most. A 2020 study published by the Lancet Public Health found that early lifestyle interventions before the age of 45 significantly reduce a lifetime cancer risk. But by the time we take action, it's often too late. We act like health is something to think about later. I know I did, for sure, until cancer came knocking on my door. I didn't have any underlying health conditions. At 42, I was diagnosed with cancer. I thought I took pretty good care of myself until I actually figured out what it meant to really take care of yourself. But later becomes now really fast. The third reason is gender bias. I'm going to call this the masculinity crisis. Now, here's something that will really piss you off. A study in social sciences and medicine found that men often view healthy eating as feminine, and that the perception directly affects their dietary choices. We are so entrenched in our gender roles that we literally have coded like life-saving habits as less masculine. Now we can change that. We can do better than that. So what do most men do? They reject salads. They mock plant-based meals. They avoid doctors. They avoid vulnerability. And guess what? Men die younger than women from nearly every major chronic illness, not because they're less capable of health, but because they're trained not to value it. We should be having a different conversation than that. Number 4, we are failing our kids. Let me ask you this. What are you feeding your kids? What are we feeding our kids? Because that's where the prevention story really begins. I see sugar as a reward. I see fast food with parents as a convenience. School lunches packed with ultra-processed foods. Celebrations that evolve around pizza and cake. And now look I love a good birthday party as much as anybody else. And often it's the only time I get cake. But we're using these things as a reward, as celebrations. And we wonder why the rate of childhood obesity and prediabetes and anxiety are exploding. One study in 2023 from the NIH found that ultra-processed food consumption accounts for nearly 70% of the caloric intake of children and teens in the U.S. Prevention doesn't sell because we teach kids from the very beginning of their life, that healthy equals hard and boring and restrictive. But disease is a much harder teacher. I can vouch for that. Number 5, the supplement trap. We have $1 billion distraction. I want to talk about the supplement industry. This is not going to make me really popular in a lot of circles, but that's okay. I respect, I believe that there is a place and time for supplements. But I also want to call out that Americans spend over 50 billion, with a B, billion a year on dietary supplements. But here's the truth. Most of them are marketed as a Band-Aid and not true prevention. Take this and keep eating your junk food. Take this and eat what you want. Drink this and don't change your habits. Detox without changing your lifestyle. This isn't prevention, people. It's pretend prevention. It's profitable because it feels like you're doing something without actually doing the work. 6th, I got a list, don't I? I got a list here. Medicine actually has its hands tied. Now, don't get me wrong. I work with doctors and I respect their training, but we have to face the facts here. because most MDs get fewer than 20 hours of nutrition education in all of medical school. They are discouraged from addressing weight or diet at all for fear of offending patients. We've created a system where people tasked with helping us to stay well are trained to only intervene after we get sick. And it's not their fault. It's the system. And it's our culture because our mindsets allow that. Seventh, why doesn't prevention sell? Because sickness pays more. I know, I don't even like saying this, but the truth is, placing a stent in for heart disease is $40,000. A chemo regimen is between $100,000 and $250,000 per patient. Insulin for type 2 diabetes is $6,000 plus per year. So in the short term, prevention is not as profitable. Plus, we don't buy into it. Sickness is $1 trillion industry. Chronic disease accounts for 90% of the $4.1 trillion annual healthcare cost, according to the CDC. So what should outrage us the most? What should outrage us the most isn't just the fact that prevention doesn't sell. It's in this sane, thriving world, the highest jobs should be in prevention. The most attended classes should be about prevention. The biggest stages with the microphones would go to people teaching prevention, but they're not. Because we've bought into a system that rewards damage control over damage prevention. And until we change that, we're going to keep burying the people that could have been saved. So if this fires you up, I want you to share this, because movements are not stagnant. When we amplify this kind of information, more voices stand up for it. They are not stagnant. They are not silent. They are not built on outrage alone. A movement has legs. It moves, it speaks, it demands. And if you're tired of being sold sickness, if you're tired of pretending that prevention doesn't matter, then share this episode. Talk about it. Challenge the dogma. Let's see what we can do together. Let's let the insult of prevention doesn't sell cause action, not silence. Because the future of healing belongs to those that are bold enough to demand it. All right, that's it. A little bit different episode today. If this resonated with you, you know what to do. Hit that share button, hit the thumbs up, leave your comments below. I want to get this conversation going. So until I see you next time, I'm Leslie Nance. And hey, truly, through prevention, cancer is not your destiny. If you have enjoyed this episode, it's time to connect. Make sure you follow this podcast and check out all the socials on anystagecancer.com. If you're ready to talk about your own healing using the Cancer Boss method, then click the link below this episode. Hey, and remember, cancer's not your destiny. Okay, I'm outie.